so this is a leap year coming up in February, right?
Cool, cool.
So we have the 30-day challenge of Bright FM, so we're shy one day. So don't hold that against us. In fact, you don't have to wait until February. Why not add some positivity and start your 30-day challenge right now on...
To schedule your chimney inspection with Anointed Chimney Sweeps, mention Bright FM for 20% off.
Something to offer. And it couldn't be the usual offering, as the next verse makes clear. In verse 4 it says, "For if he were on earth, he would not be a priest, since there are priests who offer the gifts according to the law." So he couldn't even be a priest if he was on earth. He was not descended from Aaron of the tribe of Levi, so he didn't make the cut to be a priest based on his heredity, his DNA, his ancestors. On earth, the priests who were descended from Aaron, they made these offerings according to the law. They offered what the law required. They offered it when the law required it. They offered it where the law required and how the law required it. And those priests who did that were descended from Aaron, and they held that office. It had to be done in a very particular, precise, and exact way. Not everyone could do it. And a few weeks ago, we looked at some scriptures of what happened to people who decided to presumptuously take it upon themselves to make an offering. One of them was Saul, and it didn't go well for him. So here on earth, it had to be done a particular way. Jesus himself wouldn't even be able to do it here on earth because he wasn't descended from the tribe of Levi, descended from Aaron. And the priests who were on the earth were serving, it says in verse 5, the copy and shadow of the heavenly thing, as Moses was divinely instructed when he was about to make the tabernacle. For he said, "See that you make all things according to the pattern shown you on the mountain." You look last week at this, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but the Old Testament priests served in the man-made tabernacle, later on the temple. But these things were just a shadow. They were a copy of the real ones that were in heaven. In heaven is the authentic, the real God-made tabernacle. Moses was told to make his tabernacle to look like that, but it was just a copy of it. You can listen to last week's message if you want to hear more about this. But one more thought about shadows that I'm happy to steal from Joe Foch. Shadows have no substance. Shadows are not tangible. You can't feel a shadow. You can't touch a shadow. You can't grab a hold of a shadow, except only in one place. Anybody know where? In Peter Pan. So my wife knows. In Peter Pan. They could grab hold of a shadow there. You can stand in a doorway and block someone from coming through the doorway, but you can't block a shadow. There's no way to do that. In the Old Testament, Israel worshipped at a tabernacle and then at a temple that was a shadow of something that was to come. Here in Hebrews, the writer is encouraging them not to return to that. Why would you want to return to a shadow when you can have the real thing? That doesn't make any sense, but yet it's a good illustration of what some wanted to do. They wanted to return to the law. They wanted to return to the offerings and the animals and the incense. They felt comfortable doing that. It fit like an old glove. They were used to it. But he's saying here, these things are a shadow with no substance. Now something has come of substance, and it would be silly to go back and worship and serve the shadow. Verse 6. But now he has obtained a more excellent ministry, inasmuch as he is also mediator of a better covenant, which was established on better promises. So Jesus here, it tells us, has obtained a more excellent ministry than the Old Testament priests. They had a ministry, but Jesus' ministry was better. It was more excellent. And he obtained it based on his action of dying on the cross. He paid a terrible, horrible, awful, painful price to open up heaven to us. And it was a more excellent ministry. But why was it more excellent? Because it has the power to forgive sin. Because he has the power to forgive sin. No one ever had that power before. You offered your animal to receive forgiveness, which lasted only a short time until you went home and had an argument with the wife, and then you had to start all over again. But Jesus, through his one action, paid for the sins of all mankind, past, present, and future. Done. The Old Testament priest, he was just going through the motions. He could take your offering and go through the motion. They would cut it up, wave it before the Lord, put it on the fire, and offer that sweet-smelling savor to the Father. A lot of what they did was manual labor. It had no lasting effect. They did it day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. They kept doing the same things over and over and over and over again. But Jesus, by his death on the cross, obtained a more excellent ministry. A ministry where he actually has the power to forgive sins. And he is not afraid to use such power. All because he is the mediator of a better covenant. You know, in the Old Testament, there's lots of covenants. God made a covenant with Adam. God made a covenant with Noah. God made a covenant with Abraham. God made a covenant with Moses. There are others also. His covenant with Moses was the Old Testament law. And it was just that. It was a law. Do it or else. It was the law. Jesus came with the gospel of grace. Nothing like this had ever been offered before. The Old Testament was you follow the law meticulously. And no one could do that. No one had ever been able to do that. When you failed to follow the law meticulously, you made an offering for your sin. You were forgiven, and then you went out and messed up again. It was a lot like running on a treadmill. You run and run and run and run, and you actually never get anywhere. At least at the gym, you can watch one of the many TVs while you're running on the treadmill, not getting anywhere. The Old Covenant had no capability to save anyone. But now Jesus comes with this new covenant, this better covenant, of which he is the mediator. From the Blue Letter Bible, the word for mediator, it's someone who intervenes between two. Someone in the middle. Either to make or restore peace and friendship, or maybe to form a compact, or maybe for ratifying a covenant. It's someone who stands in the middle, someone who stands in the gap. And we have this better covenant available to us, and it's through Jesus, who stood in the gap for us by dying for our sins. This better covenant, it's based on better promises. Now, which promise do you think is better? Keep making offerings day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, running on a treadmill? Is that better, or is it better to be forgiven of your sin once and for all and having a relationship with the God of the universe? The promise is everlasting life, which, just in case you don't understand it, goes on forever. It's a better covenant with better promises.
Just Fingles, the better screen, it said something like life is blue.
put a bow on the topic that we've been talking about for this hour. Food stuff that you thought was normal until somebody else told you that, in fact, it was super weird. Our final one that we'll get to, Doc from Dumb Dog texted in, chicken tenders dipped in cream of crab soup. You had my curiosity. Now you have my attention. Don't get me wrong, that's super weird. And I've never heard of anyone doing that before. But you might have stumbled onto possibly the most amazing thing in the world. The possibilities are swimming in my head right now. Thank you so much for texting that in. Thank you to everybody for texting in to 410-584-100.7 about that particular topic. Let's go ahead and get you a look inside the Mattress Warehouse Traffic Center. And then we'll hear from Zeppelin Toadies and Peter Gabriel next. This report brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Forget oil change anxiety.
station for variety from the 80s to now. Today's 101. WLIF and HD1, Baltimore's at workstation with Greg and Gina in the morning. And always variety from the 80s to now. Today's 101.9. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The outer loop is backed up from 95 until Hartford Road because of an accident, and the right lane is closed. And the inner loop is dealing with delays before 95 all the way until I-70, and again before Charles Street until Lock Raven. 83 South is slow from Padonia to the Beltway, but the JFX is clear. And the Fort McHenry and the Harbor Tunnel are both delayed heading north. With your traffic, I'm Ben Carpenter on today's 101.9.
Traffic is sponsored by Calvert Hall High School.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshare. If you think you've done your